Breaking: a fire inferno is heading straight for Russia. Ukraine receives a tidal wave of weapons, the most powerful Ramstein yet. Billions of dollars to cripple Russia. Panic sweeps the Kremlin. Zelenskyy drops a sensational declaration: Ukraine will not be defeated. The world applauds standing. Shockwaves: China strikes Russia below the belt. Beijing abandons Putin and backs Ukraine. The dictator is unraveling. The Kremlin's worst nightmare is reality. The regime is collapsing. Can Putin's desperate moves turn the tide? Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today with the latest updates. $38 billion for Ukraine. The latest Ramstein meeting unleashes a tidal wave of weapons from partners leaving Russia scrambling. Over $6 billion comes in concrete aid packages, more than $2.5 billion for Ukrainian drones ready to swarm the battlefield, over $500 million for the PURL initiative, $2 billion beefing up air defenses, plus funds for artillery shells, training, naval capabilities, and other strategic goodies. Moscow must be rubbing its eyes in disbelief as Kyiv's arsenal grows faster than anyone imagined.
On the president's instruction, we reached agreements with a number of European partners on the urgent delivery of Patriot missiles from their stockpiles. I thank our partners for this initiative. The final numbers will be confirmed after approval by the leadership of the respective partner countries. We hope for the fastest possible delivery timelines.
Agreements with partners following the Ramstein meeting are striking. The United Kingdom is allocating £500 million for air defense and contributing £150 million to the PURL initiative. In total, it will provide £3 billion in military assistance to Ukraine in 2026. Germany is allocating at least €1 billion for drone procurement for Ukraine, will finance the Air Defense Dome project over our cities, and support the Drone Assault Units project within its $11.5 billion Ukraine assistance budget. Norway has allocated $7 billion, including $1.4 billion for drones, $700 million for air defense, $200 million for artillery, and $125 million for PURL. The Netherlands has committed to allocating at least 0.25% of its GDP to Ukraine's defense and announced a €90 million contribution to PURL. Belgium will allocate €1 billion in military assistance this year. Sweden has announced its 24th aid package worth €1.2 billion and a €100 million contribution to PURL, allocating a total of €3.7 billion this year. Denmark has announced an increase of $425 million in its military aid budget, bringing total assistance to $2 billion in 2026. Spain is providing $1.2 billion. Canada is allocating $50 million under the Danish model and $45 million for medical support. Iceland is contributing $8 million to the PURL initiative and allocating $2.4 million for weapons procurement. Lithuania is allocating $265 million this year. Latvia will provide at least 0.25% of its GDP to support Ukraine. Estonia will also direct at least 0.25% of its GDP towards strengthening Ukraine's defense. Australia has announced a new contribution to the PURL initiative. Portugal announced contributions to PURL and the Czech initiative, as well as the transfer of armored vehicles and drones under the SAFE program. Turkey will strengthen our air defense with its contribution. Slovenia announced a $5 million aid package.
At the meeting, we presented to our partners for the first time our defense goals for the year, approved by the President of Ukraine and our military. We came with a clear plan and concrete solutions that we intend to implement together with our partners. I am grateful to every country that is part of the Ramstein format. Thank you for the new strong contributions to our defense.
Negotiations are heating up. The next round of the high-stakes trilateral talks is set for February 17-18 in Geneva, according to Ukrainian Presidential Communications Advisor Dmytro Litvin.
As of today, the Ukrainian delegation is preparing.
Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council Rustem Umerov later confirmed the composition of the delegation. It will include Presidential Office Chief Kyrylo Budanov, Chief of the General Staff Andriy Ignatov, Servant of the People faction leader David Arachamia, First Deputy Head of the Presidential Office Serhiy Kislitsa, and Deputy Head of Defense Intelligence Vadim Skibitsky.
The team has been assembled to cover the military, political, and security dimensions of the process. We will work on concrete solutions within the framework set by the President. The goal remains unchanged: a stable and lasting peace.
On the Russian side, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov announced that the delegation will be led by aide to the Russian dictator Vladimir Medinsky. Former Russian Culture Minister Vladimir Medinsky is known for crafting the perfect spin for the Kremlin. Sources close to Estonian security structures report that Putin has his own creative ideas, including denying the very existence of the Ukrainian state. But now Medinsky provides the ideological packaging. Journalists have also uncovered that Medinsky, using the Kremlin-controlled Russian Military Historical Society, organizes ideological events in occupied territories, supports military units, indoctrinates schoolchildren across the post-Soviet space, and publishes history textbooks. In short, he is the propaganda mastermind Putin trusts to go to negotiations, the perfect career of Kremlin ideology. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky remains steadfast in his clear and unwavering position. Zelensky would rather make no deal at all than force his people to accept a bad one. He stated that Ukraine would sooner continue fighting than agree to an unfavorable peace agreement. This was reported by The Atlantic.
I think there is no greater victory for Trump than ending the war between Russia and Ukraine.
The head of state added that the most advantageous scenario for Trump would be to end the war before the US midterm elections. The publication claims that Zelensky well understands what motivates Trump. However, the author of the article also notes that the Ukrainian president is a realist when it comes to the likelihood that Trump will actually force the Russians to compromise. The author, Simon Schuster, added that during the hour he spent with Zelensky, the president demonstrated a trait that for years, even decades, has been a core part of his character: a stubborn, sometimes irritating habit of resisting external pressure.
If you tell Zelensky that he has to do something, he will likely do the opposite.
Schuster adds that some members of Zelensky's inner circle are increasingly concerned that the window for searching a deal is closing and that Ukraine could face a year of continued fighting if a ceasefire is not achieved this spring.
But Zelensky told me that he would rather make no deal at all than force his people to accept a bad one. Even after 4 years of intense fighting, he says he is prepared to continue the struggle if necessary to secure a just and lasting peace. Ukraine will not lose, he emphasized when I asked him to assess his position on the battlefield.
China is set to provide Ukraine with a significant energy assistance package. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha invited his Chinese counterpart to visit Ukraine following their meeting on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. Sybiha emphasized that Beijing could play a role in helping bring the war with Russia to an end.
China can play an important role in establishing a just peace for Ukraine. We appreciate China's support for Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, and we had a very substantive and pragmatic discussion.
Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Foreign Minister reported that Sybiha briefed the Chinese official on the situation at the front, Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, and the damage inflicted on Chinese companies as a result of Russian strikes.
I'm grateful for Beijing's decision to provide Ukraine with an additional package of humanitarian energy assistance.
Putin has unveiled a new security apparatus clearly spooked by threats to his grip on power. After 4 years of total war, Vladimir Putin seems increasingly uneasy about his regime's stability, prompting the creation of a new power hub, the main headquarters of the National Guard troops. The decree establishing this body massively expands the authority of Putin's personal internal army, the National Guard. The new headquarters will oversee combat readiness, direct operational use of units, and organize intelligence activities, explicitly stating that all intelligence will serve the tasks assigned to the National Guard. Beyond military functions, the headquarters will now help shape and implement state policy in its domain, including forecasting and assessing military threats, analyzing potential conflicts, and drafting strategic proposals. The head of this new powerhouse will be Viktor Zolotov, longtime director of Putin's personal security and one of the dictator's most loyal inner circle members. Experts from the Institute for the Study of War analyzed these Kremlin moves, noting that the new structure reflects Putin's growing anxiety over threats to his rule. Giving the National Guard tighter control and potentially shifting some Ministry of Emergency Situations functions toward this power block also strengthens Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov. The study suggests this move aimed to protect the regime against scenarios like the Wagner Group mutiny, when armed units under Yevgeny Prigozhin advanced on Moscow with minimal resistance from Russian forces.
Putin is rewarding Gerasimov for his loyalty, and Gerasimov retains a central place in Putin's inner circle.
Amid the ongoing war in Ukraine and growing problems within Russia's military, Putin appears determined to minimize the risk of another internal crisis. Whether this strategy will succeed or backfire remains uncertain. What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video and subscribe to stay informed about the main headlines. See you soon!